Good day everyone. So I am here to memorize about the ROTC of the Jose Rizal Memorial State University main campus. So the first is the National VIPs. President and Commander-in-Chief Armed Forces of the Philippines Rodrigo Roa Duterte, Secretary of National Defense Honorable Delphine Negrillo Lorenzana, Military VIPs, Chief of Staff Armed Forces of the Philippines General Andres Centino, Armed Forces of the Philippines, Commanding General of Philippine Army General Romeo S. Bronner Jr. of Armed Forces of the Philippines, Commander, Army Reserve Commander, Major General and Fernando V. Felipe, Armed Forces of the Philippines, Group Commander, 90th of Reserve Community Defense Group, Colonel Patricio Estomales, Infantry of Group Staff Corps of Philippine Army, Commissioned Officer of 902nd Zamboanga del Norte, CDC Major Eladio V. Lomantas, Civil Engineer of Philippine Army, President of JRMSU System, Dr. Dailinda Arlapot, NSTP Director Dr. Reiko J. Dingel, NSTP Unit Head Dr. Noel J. Lupicilio, Commandant of JRMSU ROTC Unit, Major Eladio V. Lumantas, Civil Engineer of Philippine Army, Assistant Commandant of 2nd Lieutenant Nicanor B. Obdimaga, Reserve of Philippine Army, Chief Clerk Corporal Roderick Siafoimo, Infantry of Philippine Army, Tactical Officer Captain Cesar Sibala, Reserve of Philippine Army, Second Lieutenant Joe Peter M. Villarus, Reserve of Philippine Army, Senior Tactical NCOs Reverses, Admin of NCO, Sergeant Jornel Arlapot, Reserve of Philippine Army, Tactical NCOs Reverses, Junior A. Maglasang, Infantry of Philippine Army, Senior Sergeant Gerald Dritz H. Soto, Reserve of Philippine Army, Senior Sergeant Michael Ray Elvin S. Boreros, Reserve of Philippine Army, Sergeant Nancy E. Aranquez, Reserve of Philippine Army, Sergeant Maynard O. Comisilia, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private Rodel G. Patangan, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private Rechi A. De La Rosa, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private Charlene E. Tagapan, Reserve of Philippine Army, Graduate Military Assistant or GMA, Private Adams N. Sumalpong, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private Nelo B. Lagradilla, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private Jefferson Paglinawan, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private Rico Jackie Tawatao, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private Glenmar G. Olinan, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private Shaharami M. Halim, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private Jasril N. Pasculado, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private Vincent Jubilee G. Canado, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private Ray R. Dayaw, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private John Ray P. Valladares, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private Joyvin Reyes Sakal, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private John Fritz C. Cuenca, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private John Paul P. Yorong, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private Michelle B. Andicoy, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private Vance Alistair Pagasian, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private Mark Hill S. Lagamon, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private Glycel Faith D. Carino, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private Glyza Claire Sicanoog, Reserve of Philippine Army, Private Jezaline Ilupre, Reserve of Philippine Army, and Private Mayville B. Singkay, Reserve of Philippine Army. So the next is the BDE Corps Commander, Cadet Colonel J.P. Montederamos, ROTC of First Colonel, EXO or Disciplinary Officer, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Roderick L. Cadorna, ROTC First Colonel, BDE First Sergeant Adjutant Officer, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Bless Manlupi, ROTC First Colonel, BDS Second Sergeant Intelligence Officer, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Ronel V. Bailon, ROTC First Colonel, BDE Third Sergeant Operation Officer, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Ramil P. Samson, ROTC First Colonel, BDES for Logistic Officer, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Shalami P. Azoles, ROTC First Colonel, BDE 7th Sergeant Liaison Officer, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Jamaica S. Lagudas First Colonel of ROTC, First BN Commander, Cadet Lieutenant Commander Jomari P. Osabel, ROTC First Colonel, Second BN Commander, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel G. Ford C. Ferrigora, ROTC of First Colonel, First BNOXO or Disciplinary, Cadet Major John Mark T. Clemenia, ROTC First Colonel, BN First Sergeant Adjutant, Cadet Major Kathleen Rose E. Apaw, ROTC of First Colonel, BNS Sergeant Second Sergeant Intelligence Cadet Major Jericho T. Osabel, ROTC First Colonel, BN Third Sergeant Operation Cadet Major Jason A. Hamarulin, ROTC First Colonel, BN Fourth Sergeant Logistic Cadet Major Maria Alona Jane B. Alfon, ROTC First Colonel, BN 7th Sergeant Liaison Cadet Major Shenli R. Silva, ROTC First Colonel, 2nd BNXO of Disciplinary, Cadet Major Brian P. Banuelos, ROTC First Colonel, BN First Sergeant Adjutant Cadet Major Robelin B. Magna Wong, ROTC First Colonel, BN Second Sergeant Intelligence Cadet Major Hansel D. Suzobrado, ROTC First Colonel, BN Third Sergeant Operation Cadet Major Remark O. Lakay, ROTC of First Colonel, BNS for Logistic Cadet Major Mary Joy C. Maghinay, ROTC of First Colonel, BN 7th Sergeant Liaison Cadet Major Royla Bernadette B. Quinlog, ROTC of First Colonel, Cadet Major Mary Chris A. Lidama, ROTC of First Colonel, Cadet Major Aaron J. Kalasang, ROTC of First Colonel, Cadet Major Stephen J. T. Takliad, ROTC of First Colonel, Cadet Major Juvenal P. Catilo, ROTC of First Colonel, Cadet Major Christian G. Sardani, ROTC of First Colonel, Cadet Major Arian Faye and Palangan, ROTC of First Colonel, Cadet Major Bobby Janela G. Cañete, ROTC of First Colonel, Cadet Major Davy Janelia J. Cañete, ROTC of First Colonel, Cadet Major Geno A. Carbonilia, ROTC of First Colonel, Cadet Major Kento O. Dampayla, ROTC of First Colonel, Cadet Major Raymart S. Año, ROTC of First Colonel, Cadet Major Bethany D. Agit, ROTC of First Colonel, Cadet Major Whitman B. Cabanag, ROTC of First Colonel, Cadet Major Mark Jen El Proceso, ROTC of First Colonel, Cadet Captain Lester Vid D. Ikaw, ROTC of Second Lieutenant. Cadet Captain Richard Zamora sa ROTC of 2nd Colonel, Cadet Captain Joseph B. Meral, ROTC of 2nd Lieutenant, Cadet Captain Erwin T. Palomares, ROTC of 2nd Lieutenant, Cadet Captain Aurelio L. Flores Jr., ROTC of 2nd Colonel, Cadet Captain Kane Troy F. Maghanay, ROTC of 2nd Colonel, Cadet Captain Ro N. Vincent A. Sumanduran, ROTC of 2nd Colonel, Cadet Captain Jefferson N. Magiling, ROTC of 2nd Lieutenant Colonel, Cadet Captain Blazation H. T. ROTC of 2nd Colonel, Cadet Captain Angel S. Conato, ROTC of 2nd Colonel, Cadet Captain Raymar B. Bemos, ROTC of 2nd Colonel, Cadet Captain June Kenneth B. Desir, the ROTC of 2nd Colonel, Cadet Captain Jonathan B. Gumana, the ROTC of 2nd Colonel, Cadet Captain Kevin M. Delicano, ROTC of 2nd Colonel, Cadet Captain Lynch Kyle S. Abapo, ROTC of 2nd Colonel, Cadet Captain Lovell Jane T. Maginsari, ROTC of 2nd Colonel. Military professionalism. Men who adopt the profession of arms submit their own free will to the law of perpetual constraints of their own accord. They reject the right to live where they choose, to say what they think, to dress as they like. From the moment they become soldiers, it needs put an order to settle them in this place, to move them to that, to separate them from their families and dislocate their normal lives. In the world of command, they must rise, march, run, endure bad weather, and go out without sleep or food. Be isolated in some distant post, work until they drop. They have ceased to be the master of their own fate. If they drop on their tracks, the ashes shall be scattered in their four winds. That is all part and parcel of their jobs. Pledge of loyalty. If you work for a man in heaven's name, work for him, speak well of him, and stand by the institution that he represents. Remember, an ounce of loyalty is worth a pound of cleverness. If you must growl, condemn, and eternally find fault, why not resign your position? And when you are in the outside, dumb to your heart's contents. But as long as you are part of this institution, do not condemn it. If you do, the first high wind that comes along will blow you away, and probably you will never know why. Military courtesy. An act of politeness, civility, and respect that a personal